Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Philosophy in the Forest. I'm Shasta, and I'm joining you from the Puna district on the Big Island of Hawaii. And today I'll be discussing a little bit more of Master Dōgen's Shobogenzo. And in the Shobogenzo, it's a huge volume. It's a huge voluminous book, and actually Dōgen states that you don't really have to read sutras. So it's kind of ironic that this Shobogenzo is so large. So in this discussion, I'll be talking about emptiness or nothingness, because I think it's a great way to tribute such a giant book. And Dōgen states, all things are as empty space. They're not born, nor do they wholly die. They're not stained or immaculate, not increasing, not decreasing. And Dōgen calls this the wisdom beyond discriminatory thought. And this is the entire reality, as it manifests before our eyes. And Dōgen actually suggests that we learn to appreciate reality and the things that we see as not being separate from ourselves. And that we should look to the world with reverence. And at this point, when we recognize the allness and the truth that is nothingness, this is a moment of nirvana. In Sanskrit, they also call this Sunyata. It's the voidness that is reality. It's the space in between everything. It's the fact that we are not disconnected from anything. And it's not actually the negation of existence, but it's the negation of the need to differentiate your being from the objects around you. And, from my being from my dog. It's the vast everything, the emptiness. Sunyata is sometimes misunderstood to mean, that nothing exists, but this isn't true. It's actually existence itself as the phenomena of empty space. It's the intrinsic nature that we are. It's the truth of our being. It's consciousness itself. We tend to think of things as like needing to have a shape, and then as soon as we identify them, we have a tendency to name them. And a part of the secret to achieving that stillness is to calm the mind's desire to differentiate things. And perhaps that means, that there might be a paradox, because it might mean ceasing language. And Gelek Rinpoche says that to contemplate nothingness is a lot like the theory of relativity. It's a concise explanation of emptiness. The theory of relativity gives the Buddha's idea of emptiness. So energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. And this emptiness is actually the interdependence that everything in a system has with everything else. It's the balance that energy has with the mass of things and the light that we see around us, I guess. So emptiness isn't empty. It's everything in perfect balance without separateness. So empty of a name or perhaps of an ego, as we've come to understand it, the need to differentiate the self from the everything. So the mind does this, and it's not that it's zero in the end. So and Thich Nhat Hanh actually called emptiness to lack the idea of a separate self. So we become a being engaging with a system, and that we're not able to exist without the air that we take in. And that we actually coexist, because our existence is a long lineage of other things that have come to be before us and that will be after us. So our existence is just a part of this interconnectivity with everything else. And it's almost an interdependence, an idea that we are not separate. So it's that there's an actual illusion that we're separate from the solidness of nature, but it's just empty on its own. And emptiness is a point where you gain prajna, which is the insight into the vast stillness. So just sit for a moment and let yourself be a part of space and a part of everything. Give yourself a chance just to let go and recognize that you're a part of infinite space. Thank you for joining me this evening. Aloha.